Several U.S. military bases across Europe have been put on a heightened state of alert. The level of force protection has been raised to its second highest state amid concerns that a terrorist attack could target U.S. military personnel or facilities. This comes amid a report that the U.S. is increasing its use of AI technology on the battlefield, most recently in helping the U.S. strike targets in the Middle East. For more, we're joined by Oz Sultan, the chief strategist with the Sultan Interactive Group. Hi, Oz. Thanks so much for joining the program.
Thanks for having me.
So how is the U.S. military using AI systems to identify targets from their bases around the world?
Well, I think it's twofold. So the Africa Command was rolled into European Command about 8 or 10 years ago. So what they're looking at right now is alerts that have been coming from the Pentagon as well as Special Forces that are speaking to heightened threat activity from certain Islamist actors, certain terrorist actors in Central Africa, as well as now what we're looking at is decentralized terrorism, which is coming across the board. I think a lot of this technology is getting workshopped in places like Israel and the Israel-Gaza conflict, because what we had seen was there was an extension of artificial intelligence that was used inside of the Iron Dome technology that was deployed with the Pentagon in Israel. But now what we're looking at is the utilization of similar technology inside of the European theater, inside of the African theater, more than likely inside of the Middle Eastern theater, whereby we're using a trifecta. So that is satellite analysis, drone-based analysis, and ground-based intelligence information gathering that is through a variety of groups that could be special forces, the Central Intelligence Agency, the National Security Agency, and a multitude of three-letter groups that are out there. All of this is being fed into these new algorithmic systems, and what it's doing is it's rendering reasonably accurate threat analysis of targets in numbers that are above 50, somewhere between 50 to 200 per day. That's well beyond the capacity of humans, and what it does is it gives more of a security perspective, but it also raises a lot of questions in terms of collateral damage, as well as, non-specific targets that can get kind of identified inside of the technology and not necessarily cleared before they're attacked.
Is this similar to the system that Israel is using in the Gaza war?
Very much so. In fact, it may have been workshopped in the Gaza conflict and now is being utilized on a much broader scale. What we're seeing is this is ongoing with conflicts around the world, including new technology or outdated technology that really has been tested in combat theater that was rolled out in Ukraine and was also rolled out in Gaza.
How do you think the Pentagon is going to address the risks of collateral damage?
I think that's a huge challenge. We've seen huge problems with what's gone on with Israel right now. We've seen the moves from the United Nations. We've seen the calls of genocide. This is a brand new era that we're moving into. We have computer augmented warfare inside of theater with live fire on civilian, military, and other targets that seem to be interlayered on top of each other in certain conflict regions. There is a big question of morality. There's a secondary question of, what the culpability or liability is going to be for the civilian targets. And third, there's the question of the efficacy or the clarity of the targeting system itself. I think it's still a big quagmire, but it is something that the United States government and the Pentagon are going to have to sort out in short order.
Is this the future of warfare?
More than likely, this is the tipping point. What you're looking at right now is the utilization of AI in ways that is defensive posturing. Over the past couple of weeks, we've talked about the X-62A, which is the AI-driven F-16 fighter jet that you may be seeing tested out in Ukraine over the course of the next couple of months. And I think that is the start of offensive warfare. So, what we can say now is that war has changed. And is it for the better? Maybe, maybe not. Are collateral damage questions looming? Absolutely. Are there huge risks of the Geneva Convention? Also, absolutely. So I'm taking a wait and see approach to this, but we have changed the landscape, and it has happened as of now.
What kind of risks does this create for the United States military and their operations overseas?
It's multifold. One is, the risk of response. So if you were to say that we were to use these on Houthi rebels in Yemen, there's and you start missing targets, which has happened with the United Kingdom, which doesn't have this technology. There's weird responses that we'd never seen before. The Houthis are putting out diss videos, and they're making fun of Western countries, and that's being something that takes off inside of social media and gains a life of its own. You have the risks of collateral damage, which is civilian casualties. And then you also have the risk of strained diplomatic ties in between countries, largely because many of these operations could be black operations that are carried out covertly. They could be, directed operations, which are, well publicized inside the military community. And it could be a mixture of both. So that, again, raises a lot of questions as to how the military is going to handle this and how they're going to handle blowback from these operations.
Sultan, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.